Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack. I'm going to bring you Mythic Fallen Avatar, everything you need to know about healing this fight, and some quick tips and tricks from a holy and discipline perspective. If you want to check out any of the weak auras, of course, that I'm using over the course of this fight, they're all going to be linked in the description below, so be sure to check those out. Alright, getting into it, of course, right off the bat, you're going to be faced with the first Mythic mechanic that's different. There is still going to be the Fell Soak that needs to be covered by the Maiden, that needs to have the Maiden dragged into it in order to soak up any additional energy so that it does not get to the boss. Any additional energy that gets to the boss is going to force him to transition faster into Phase 2, which of course is horrendous. You're still having Shadowy Blades, you're still having all that other stuff, but you're also going to be getting, in addition to the Fell Torrent that will flow into the boss, or attempt to flow into the boss that needs to be soaked, you're going to have 2 Voids that are going to be trying to flow in as well. Those will be soaked by the players. Every stack is 10% less healing and absorption taken, and this is going to stack really, really quickly. You want to make sure that, for our strat, for all intents and purposes, we had 5 stacks per person, and occasionally we went over that just to ensure things would go a little more smoothly. Some guilds went with 7 stacks and less people. We went with less stacks, more people, to allow us to have a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more breathing room in case somebody had messed up, and we were able to quickly respond to that and make sure that we were not getting any kind of leaks that were going into the boss. So that was our strategy. Your results may vary. You're still having the soaks for Sargeras, things like that, but there will be more. So we had generally our rogues focusing on that, as well as our mages, hunters, and shadow priests kind of rotated up out there. Big thing to kind of keep in mind is when you are soaking these conduits, you want to make sure that they are not flowing into the boss at all, which means you can't have any leaks. Which means when you're having Unbound Chaoses, for example, you'll see that the void is flowing, directly towards the boss, and I kind of think of it as a runway. You want to make sure the runway is always clear for whoever is soaking whenever you're going to be having your Unbound Chaos going out. So the most difficult part of that fight, I think from my side's perspective, wasn't so much as the healing of it, was just making sure that you were getting good handoffs. So we would have many times where we would have Unbound Chaos occurring while I am soaking, and I'm halfway through my soaks, I need to do a quick handoff. The easiest way to get through this is make sure that you're maybe quarter way down from the origin point of the void. Start running as Unbound Chaos starts, and then the person who's going to be soaking after you will come in behind you from like the origin point of where the void starts spawning from and heading towards the boss. This allows you a pretty good handoff, and you'll see it in a number of our clips here, that it made it very easy just to make sure that you're able to step out when somebody else is in, and to make sure that you're reducing and hopefully preventing any extra energy from flowing into the boss when it does not need to. Many wipes are going to be caused by just leaking into the boss and making him transition way too quick. So it's something to always kind of keep in mind, and making sure that you're keeping the runway clear to prevent anybody from dying to Unbound Chaos because they're deciding to soak rather than leak into the boss. You kind of just have a no-win scenario there. Now, as discipline on this fight, a lot of what you're looking at here in Phase 1, because I think Phase 2 in general, when you're getting into a bunch of the safe zones, and you'll see some of the footage of the safe zones in a bit, it's pretty straightforward. For both Holy and Disc, Phase 2 healing's very straightforward and basically mimics Heroic in many ways. You just change your positioning up a little bit. But again, Phase 1, you have to, and you'll see it on the right side of my screen with my angry assignments, we're having different soaking orders in order to deal with the Touch of Sargeras. So that's one area where I'm focusing on using my Rapture and my powered shields and things like that to the best of my ability, so that I'm able to get some decent shielding coverage on everybody. Rogues should be able to live without it, of course, but any kind of extra damage that you can soak up for them so that they're at a higher level of HP for any of the unbounds or any of the unexpected damage and things like that are happening, it is always very helpful. And because they're generally not going to be having any healing absorbs or healing debuffs on them, you're going to be doing a huge amount of healing to them. Both Holy and Disc can do huge amounts of healing to the tanks, and just generally to melee over the course of this fight, because they will not be having any healing debuffs as long as they're not going to be in some of the soaking orders. So you're not expecting tanks to be in soaking orders. You're not expecting most melee to be in soaking orders. So it's always something to kind of keep in mind, especially when you're looking at how you're aiming your Prayer of Healings or your Powered Radiances. If you're able to touch people who are generally not having any kind of healing debuffs, it'll do wonders just overall for, again, keeping them topped in case they're taking lots of damage, because they love hovering very close by during Rupture Realities. But it will also make sure that, it shows that you're doing some kind of healing even when the healing debuffs are up on everybody. Now, as Holy, it's been pretty frustrating in order to properly get good healing out and being able to properly respond to some of the damage. For our first kill, I ran with Buying Heal, and I felt like this was a very, very good choice in order to properly respond to the healing debuff that was going out, because you want something that is cheap, easy to use, and actually does some healing. So what I'd frequently find myself in was a situation where even if I had Pride As, I would frequently find that after soaking, I would have a large number of stacks on me, and I still would need to be topped off, but my health wasn't really going anywhere anytime soon. So what I wanted to have was something that would help buffer my HP, and as well as the HP of others, but would not cost an arm and a leg in order to get the cast off. And Binding Heal really kind of fit the bill there. And it allowed me to maintain, high mana efficiency while also keeping myself alive until my healing debuff fell off. And if I was still a little bit low, maybe I took 7 or 8 stacks to fill in for somebody else, then I'd be able to top myself off from there and make sure that I'm able to kind of continue healing and continue surviving throughout the fight, really. In terms of healing during the Unbound Chaoses as Holy, what you really have to do is you have to posture yourself properly such that you're able to drop Sanctify on a melee cluster the second Unbound happens. Because what you have from an Unbound is you have Unbound hits, and people start dropping pools at their feet immediately, right? But it also deals damage to them just naturally, organically. So what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to position yourself such that you're near melee cluster. The melee start moving away from the Unbounds, but you drop a Sanctify on them before they all spread out from each other. That's generally the best way that I've found to use Sanctify. Otherwise, you're in these very awkward positions of trying to fit a couple people in here and there, or you're having some melee on the boss, some melee on the Maiden. People are everywhere, and it's just a mess. So in Phase 1, generally that's the best time I found. You may also have a bunch of situations where melee is going to be running into ranged players during Rupture Realities as they're running out of melee. That's great too if you're able to help enforce players to run into a clump or incentivize them to run into a clump as the Ruptures are going off. That makes your life a hell of a lot easier for getting people topped off, and it just makes sure that your abilities are going to be mana efficient. Do, as Holy, keep in mind how much your abilities are costing you. For example, do keep an eye on your Holy Word Serenity and when you're using it and who you're using it on. Very often you're going to be putting maybe the lion's share of your Serenity casts into the tanks when they're in range of you, but you also want to be mindful of the stacks that other players have, and knowing that if you have somebody with 7 or 8 stacks and you're going to be dumping Serenities into them, A, it's not going to do much, and B, it's probably going to waste a bunch of your mana. So you need to be finding more economical ways to top people off, such that you will still have mana left over when you go into Phase 2. Because again, Phase 2 is very straightforward in the healing that you need to be doing, and of course you're going to see it right here where it very much mimics a lot of the requirements that we are having to cover in Heroic. The big differences here that you have to worry about are just some of the positioning. Tornadoes really, really hurt, and of course you're going to be having the Reign of the Destroyer that you have to soak up. So you'll see it kind of mimics how Kil'jaeden's Armageddon soaks work. There will be, an open radius, and it's almost like it's simmering, like it's steaming. And if you stand into it, the steam will dissipate to show that it's being soaked. Make sure that everybody's soaking. If you do not soak, it deals tons of damage to the raid, and of course there's a big hole in the platform which is going to hurt you later on. Definitely keep that in mind. For our strategy, we did not have the healers soaking at all for the Dark Marks. You will see the Dark Mark weak aura that is in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen. It shows and helps designate people for specific orders in which they want to be soaking in. So left side's going to be first, then melee's going to be next, and then right side's going to be next. And basically it designates who's left, middle, right, and of course we have our orders, which you see on the right side of our screen, of who is soaking what for those Dark Marks. It made it a lot easier for us. What you'll also see is some of the markers that we have down here. So the blue marker, for example, is the ultimate safe zone for a time. And it's also a bit of an awkward safe zone because it is perfect for the first Rupture, and it's very good for, as Discipline, still being able to hit the boss and heal people. But when you go to the second safe zone where you want to stand for the Rupture Reality there, you actually cannot hit the boss. So I stood at blue until Rupture Reality was happening and was about to happen, and then I casted Prayer of Healing, I casted Penance into the boss, and I started running away basically as the platform was falling beneath my feet, and I moved to the next safe zone. The last safe zone, of course, is going to be green. as you are basically awaiting the third Rupture Reality. And then you're running back onto purple to await basically just the end of the fight. And from here, you need to be able to kill the boss as quickly as you can. And overall, the setup, the preparation from a disc or holy perspective, you're cycling through your raid cooldowns here. Ideally, you want to be making sure that you're having any kind of damage reduction or instant top-offs from like a revival or something like that. You want to make sure that those are coming from the very last Rupture Reality, because usually that's when people are the lowest HP levels. I think even on one of our kills, and maybe it was one of our first kills, we even had our monk actually just revival way earlier because people were just so low HP. So he actually kind of gutted his own healing to make sure that people were high enough so that they would live, because we had other CDs coming back that we could work with as well. So something like that, where you're taking a big sacrifice out of somebody else's cooldown to instantly bring people up just enough, and maybe it would be uneven healing where, you know, all the melee people would actually be topped off and overheal by 40%, but all the ranged people were super, super low, and they would heal them enough so that they would survive, you know. Those are really good trade-offs in the end. It may suck in terms of your HPS, it may not look pretty, but when you're getting enough people alive to get this boss down, it is absolutely vital. And it's very, very easy to be pushing and rage on stuff like that on this fight with how many people can easily die to tornadoes, all kinds of things like that. So being very mindful of that and doing whatever you can to either use, you know, pain suppression or guardian spirit. A lot of times you're going to be needing those in phase 2 on targets that are having the tornadoes on them. The boss damage really doesn't increase that much. Those are some of the things to watch out for. Hope you guys found this enlightening. Hope you all, you know, found it helpful for you killing the boss. If you got any other kind of questions, feel free to ask them in the comments down below. Of course, if you want to check out any of our Mythic progression, we're working on Mythic Kil'jaeden right now. We just, at the time of this video, hit phase 3. So be sure to check it out. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you all next time.